Namaskar, NIOS welcomes you all in this video for subject English for senior secondary class. Today's our chapter is lesson number 13. Title is The Tiger in the Tunnel. So let's start the chapter. First, we will do difficult words. After that, we will read the lesson. Let's start with the difficult words. First word is jungle. Next word is tunnel. Next word is shell crying. Next word is swallow. We swallow the medicines. Next word is chill air. Next word is stretched. Shawl. Next word is slow down. You may see many animals walk slowly, move slowly. Next word is curve. Curve. signals, Rosie. Next word is Fargal. Fagai. Feasted. So far we discussed about difficult words. Let's start the chapter now. So, the night is dark and silent. A young boy and his father are alone in a hut in the middle of the jungle. Soon, the father leaves his son alone and goes out into the jungle. Where does he go and why? Tambu, the boy, opened his eyes in the dark and wondered if his father was ready to leave the hut on his nighty errand. There was no moon that night, and the deathly stillness of the surrounding jungle was broken only occasionally by the shrill cry of a cicada. Sometimes from far off came the hollow humming of a woodpecker, carried along on the faint breeze. Or the grunt of a wild boar could be heard as he dug up a favorite root. But these sounds were rare, and the silence of the forest always returned to swallow them up. Baldew, the watchman, was awake. He stretched himself slowly, winding the heavy shawl that covered him. It was close on midnight, and the chill air made him shiver. The station, a small shack baked by heavy jungle, was a station in name only, for trains only stopped there if at all for few seconds before entering the deep cutting that led to the tunnel. Most trains merely slowed down before taking the sharp curve before cutting. Baldev was responsible for signaling whether or not the tunnel was clear of obstruction, and his manual signal stood before the entrance. At night, it was his duty to see that the lamp was burning and that the overland mail passed through safely. Shall I come too, father? Asked Tembu sleepingly, still lying in the huddle in a corner of the hut. No, it is cold tonight. Do not get up. Tembu, who was 12, did not always sleep with his father at the station, for he had also to help in the home, where his mother and small sister were usually alone. They lived in a small tribal village on the outskirts of the forest. About 3 miles from the station, their small rice fields did not provide them with more than a bare living, and Baldev considered himself lucky to have got the job of Khalasi at the small wayside signal stop. Still, Rosie Baldev groped for his lamp, in darkness, then fumbled about in a search of matches. When he had produced a light, he left the hunt, closed the door behind him, and set off along the permanent way. Tembu had fallen asleep again. At midnight, Baldev goes out of his hut into the thick forest. The jungle is full of dangerous animals, but Baldev has a job to do, and it is important. Baldev wondered whether the lamp on the signal post was still alight. Gathering his shawl closer about him, he stumbled on, sometimes along the rails, sometimes along the ballets. He longed to get back to his warm corner in the hut. The eeriness of the place was increased by the neighboring hills, which overhung the main line threateningly. On entering the cutting with its sheer rock walls towered high above the rails, Baldev could not help thinking about the wild animals he might encounter. He had heard many tales of the famous tunnel tiger, a man-eater, which was supposed to frequent this spot. He hardly believed the stories, for since his arrival at this place a month ago, he had not seen or even heard a tiger. There had, of course, been panthers, and only a few days ago the villagers had killed one with their spears and axes. Baldev had occasionally heard the soughing of a panther calling to its mate, but they had not come near the tunnel or shed. Baldev walked confidently, for being a tribal himself. He was used to the jungle and its way. Like his forefathers, he carried a small axe for Guy to look at, but deadly when in use. He prided himself in his skills in wielding it against wild animals. He had killed a young boar with it once, and the family had feasted on the flesh for 3 days. The axe-head of pure steel, thin but ringing true like a bell, had been made by his father over a charcoal fire. Occasionally, an official who had come to the station had offered him good money for the weapon, but Baldev had no intention of parting with it. The cutting curved sharply, and in the darkness, the black entrance to the tunnel looked up, meaning mercilessly the signal light was out. Baldev set to work to haul the lamp down by its chain. If the oil had finished, he would have to return to the hut for more. The mail train was due in 5 minutes. Once more he fumbled for his matches. Then suddenly he stood still and listened. The frightened cry of a barking deer, followed by a crashing sound in the undergrowth, made Baldev hurry. So that the shadow leaped up and down the soot-stained walls, and having made sure that the line was clear, he returned to the entrance and sat down to wait for the mail train. The train was late. Sitting huddled up, almost dozing, he soon forgot his surroundings and began to nod. Back in the hut, the trembling of the ground told of the approach of the train, and a low distant rumble woke the boy, who sat up, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. Break.
ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम में हमें एनआईओएस के थ्रू ये सिखाया जाता है, बताया जाता है कि आपको कौन सी प्रॉब्लम में पेशेंट को कैसे स्टेबलाइज करना है।
हेल्थ वर्कर का कोर्स करने के बाद में व्यक्ति इतना निपुण अवश्य हो जाता है कि किसी मरते हुए व्यक्ति की, चाहे वो जलने से हो, चाहे वो डूबने से हो, चाहे वो करंट लगने से हो, चाहे वो सड़क का एक्सीडेंट हो, चाहे वो हार्ट अटैक हो, चाहे दौरा पड़ने से हो, उसकी जान बचा सके। और जान बचाने के बाद में उसको प्राथमिक उपचार देने के उपरांत इमरजेंसी तक पहुंचा सके, जहां पे कि डॉक्टर की देखरेख में उसका आगे का इलाज संभव हो सके।
सामुदायिक स्वास्थ्य प्रशिक्षण कार्यक्रम एनआईएस का बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण प्रशिक्षण कार्यक्रम है। इस कार्यक्रम में आधारभूत जीव विज्ञान, मातृत्व एवं बाल स्वास्थ्य देखभाल, रोगों व आपातकालीन स्थितियों में निवारण एवं प्रबंधन, ये 3 महत्वपूर्ण विषय हैं जिनके आधार पर एक स्वास्थ्य कार्यकर्ता बहुत ही अच्छी तरीके से किसी भी इमरजेंसी को हैंडल करने में सक्षम होता है और किसी भी इमरजेंसी में वो फर्स्ट एड दे करके उसको डॉक्टर के पास रेफर कर सकता है। आइए हम सब मिलकर के इस स्वास्थ्य कार्यक्रम को सफल बनाएं। जय हिंद, जय भारत। जय हो।
एनआईओ शिक्षार्थियों से अनुरोध है कि 30 जनवरी 2024 को दोपहर 3 बजे से 4 बजे के दौरान निदेशक विद्यार्थी सहायता सेवाएं सीधे प्रसारण में उपलब्ध रहेंगे। इस कार्यक्रम के दौरान आप सभी एनआईओएस में प्रवेश एवं अध्ययन संबंधित अपने प्रश्नों को हमारे ईमेल एड्रेस nioslivevideo@gmail.com, यूट्यूब चैनल NIOS लाइव वीडियो व टोल फ्री नंबर 1800-180-2543 के माध्यमों द्वारा पूछ सकते हैं।
Now let's continue. Father, it's time to light the lamp, he mumbled, and then, realizing that his father had been gone some time, he laid down again. But he was wide awake now, waiting for the train to pass. waiting for his father's returning footsteps. Baldev finds himself in a dangerous situation. How does he deal with it? Let's see. There was no shelter for Baldev, but he grasped his axe firmly and tensed his body, trying to make out the direction from which the animal was approaching. For some time there was only silence. Baldev, listening as he had never listened before, wondered if it was making for the tunnel or the opposite direction, the direction of the hut in which Tembu would be lying, unprotected. He did not have to wonder for long. Before a minute had passed, he made out the huge body of the tiger, trotting steadily towards him. Its eyes shone a brilliant green in the light from the single lamp. Flight was useless, for in the dark the tiger would be more sure-footed than Baldev, and will soon be upon him from behind. Baldev stood with his back on the signal post, motionless, staring at the great brute moving rapidly towards him. The tiger used to the way of men, for it had been preying on them for years. Come on fearlessly, and with a quick run and a snap struck out with its right paw, expecting to bowl over this puny man. Puny man would dare stand in the way. Baldev, however, was ready. With a marvelously agile leap, he avoided the paw and brought his axe down on the animal's shoulder. The tiger gave a roar and attempted to close in. Again, Baldev drove his axe which caught the tiger on the shoulder, almost shivering the leg. To make matters worse, the axe remains stuck in the bone, and Baldev was left without a weapon. The tiger, roaring with pain, now sprang upon Baldev, bringing him down and then tearing at his broken body. It was all over in a sharp few minutes. Baldev was conscious only of searing pain down his back, and then there was blackness and the night closed in on him forever. Baldev, the breadwinner of Baldev, the breadwinner of the family, was dead. Who took on his responsibilities, and how did he tackle them? So, the tiger drew off and sat down, licking his wounded leg, roaring every now and then with agony. It did not notice the faint rumble that shocked the earth, followed by the distant puffing of an engine steadily climbing. The overland mail was approaching through the trees beyond the cuttings. As the train advanced, the glow of the fronts would be seen, and showers of sparks fell like Diwali lights over the forest. As the train entered the cutting, the engine whistled once, loud and precisely. The tiger raised his head and then slowly got to his feet. He found himself trapped like the men. Flight along the cutting was impossible. He entered the tunnel, running as fast as his wounded leg would carry him. And then, with a roar and a shower of sparks, the train entered the yawning tunnel. The noise in the confined space was deafening, but when the train came out into the open on the other side, silence returned once. At the next station, the driver slowed down and stopped his train to water the engine. He got down to stretch his legs and decided to examine the headlamps. He received the surprise of his life, for just above the cow catcher lay the major portion of the tiger, cut in half by the engine. There was considerable excitement and conjecture at the station, but back at the cutting there was no sound except for the sobs of the boys as he sat beside the body of his father. He sat there a long time, unafraid of the darkness, graduating the body from jackals and hyenas, until the first faint light of dawn brought with it the arrival of the relief watchman. He sat down in the darkness to wait for the train, and sang softly to himself. There was nothing to be afraid of. His father had killed the tiger. The forest gods were pleased, and besides, he had the axe with him. His father's is his father's axe, and he now knew to use it. So far we discussed about difficult words and the story. Hope you all understand the story. Thank you.
तीस जनवरी 2024 को दोपहर 3 बजे से 4 बजे के दौरान निदेशक विद्यार्थी सहायता सेवाएं